Hey y'all, it's me, CheesyPaninie, and this is the highly anticipated part 2 of building a Wygol Village House. And in this video, I'll be teaching you guys how to make the exterior of the Wygol house, as well as how to set it up so that when you flick a switch, you go from outside to inside. Anyway, since I've already had my long ass intro in the first video, let's just get to it. Here's a list of basic building tools that you are going to need to follow this tutorial, and here are some mods that I highly recommend as I use them a lot for building. And if you want some recommendations for good building gear, check out this playlist. Okay, on to part 2. For the second version with the exterior and interior, we'll be borrowing some elements we've already created in the first version. So I do recommend that you watch part 1 first before this one, even if the type of house you want is the second version. Anyways, for the exterior, you can just copy the roof and the base wall and floor of the house we created from the first part. Naturally, you have to create it from scratch, but if you have the cheat sheet mod, you can easily copy the house using the eyedropper tool and use the paint tool to paste it. For more information about this mod, I've left a link down at the description for you guys. We don't need the whole house. We really just need the basic hollow shape. From there, we will remove the pro wood, then replace it with wooden beams painted brown. You actually don't have to paint it brown as it is already brown, but I still do it because that's just me being finicky and whatever. As for the flooring, remove the pro wood as well, but keep the blue slab walls painted white intact. Next, I proceeded to copy this detail from our reference. There are 4 spaces in between at the sides and 5 spaces in between at the center where the door will be placed. For the horizontal bars, I used boreal wood painted brown to give it a lighter, warmer tint. For this part right here, I placed blue dynasty shingles painted deep orange, just like our roof. Now, there's something I want to note regarding wooden beams. They're a unique type of block in a way that they do not block you or any NPC or monster when they pass through, but they still behave as blocks in a way that they can only be removed with a pickaxe, not a hammer, and they block other blocks and furniture. So the problem we have here is that the wooden beam stops right here. So in order to extend that, we place ebonwood walls painted brown. The division between the wooden beams and the ebonwood wall is a little bit noticeable when you zoom in on it. Well, you're probably wondering, why won't I just use ebonwood wall for the whole thing? Or maybe even boreal wood fence? It makes much more sense to do that, right? Well, yes and no, and you'll understand later. Next up, we place the gray brick walls painted white and fill it up all the remaining spaces. Looking back at our reference, they have these diagonal lines that form an X. Now, I know some people would go and use a wooden beam to make diagonal lines, but they tend to be too thick for this design. So what I did was, I instead used minecart tracks and hammered them into an X shape and painted them brown. I know it's a little bit too light, but I prefer it over a thicker block. After that, I placed boreal wood platforms painted brown just below it. Now, I wanted to make some small diagonal lines for this one as well, but unfortunately the platforms or minecart tracks can't really form it well, so I settled with just the horizontal lines of the platform. I also did the same design on the right side. For windows, I used lead fences since the reference had grilled windows and I thought it resembled it. And I know that the reference only had 1 window, but I decided to put 2 because I wanted it to be symmetrical. But it does work either way. Now, to make the windows look a little bit more detailed, I took some boreal wood platforms to frame the window. I painted the top part gray and the windowsill white for it to pop out more. I've also removed the first blocks of wooden beams and replaced them with stone slab blocks to create these stands. I'm not sure what you'd call these things specifically, but if you guys know, please comment down below because I really have no idea and I would really like to know. Anyways, for the stairs, I placed some planked walls and some boreal wood platforms, which are both painted gray. Then I painted trees, center platforms, and walls white for highlight and to bring it to the front and hammer down the two sides. But then you're gonna need a place to put your teleporter. You could just place it below the platform, but in this build I preferred to make the teleporter be the step at the door. So for this, I initially thought of hammering the platform below and just placing the teleporter on top. But by doing so, you risk falling down when you walk. So I used stone slab there instead, placed the teleporter, and painted it gray. I also hammered the platforms by the edges. Using the stone slab kinda works out because it feels like this step comes forward like in a reference and the stairs at the sides are in the background. Making certain blocks darker or lighter adds some good depth to any build. So it's good to have in mind when you're making something. Not just in Terraria, but basically any kind of art. Now for the door, just grab some ebonwood walls, paint them brown, add a steampunk platform, paint it brown, and you've got a door. For even more extra details, you can add boreal wood platforms painted brown above and below the doorknob. Now for the front door overhang, aka the tiny roof above the door houses sometimes have, we first place some boreal wood a block above the door and actuate it to put it in the background. Next, we place some blue shingles painted deep orange above, remove some bits of boreal wood at the sides, replace them with wooden beams, place some ebonwood wall behind the roof, and you've got yourself an entrance. Don't forget to place a switch at the side, it's going to be really handy later on. Now for these solid white bars, I'm actually unsure what these are supposed to be, since our reference is in 2D and I can't find a similar reference in a different angle. I feel like this could be a terrace of some sort, since there is a door over there. Regardless, we can replicate this kind of look using smooth marble blocks and walls. I used white paint on it because I didn't want the black cracks or lines on the marble to be too visible. Now, based on our reference, it was kind of implied that this white part of the house extrudes or comes forward, judging by the shadow underneath. So to create the same effect, we scrape off the white paint of the gray bricks so that it will reveal its natural darker gray color. I've also made sure to place the smooth marble walls horizontally and the smooth marble blocks vertically, like so, for it to separate from each other. As you can see, lines formed between the two materials. If you used only one of the two, it will form a solid shape and gives it less depth. Just like the one below, the upper part of the house also has a door overhang and is pretty much built the same way. Also add the same windows that were made below at both sides. Now before I cap this off, I want to show you guys how this house looks in the dark. You can hardly see the house unless you have a light source with you. So now I'm going to teach you a technique to make sure that your creation still stands out even at night. For this, you'll need diamond gem spark walls. Since our house is a combination of walls and blocks put together, there are some walls that are hidden behind blocks which you can't even see. So what we do is we place some diamond gem spark walls behind those blocks so that it won't affect the overall look of the build while brightening it up. This is actually the reason why I used wooden beams instead of walls for this, because I needed a place to put my diamond gem spark walls. I could just actuate boreal wood instead, but I think it's gonna be way too dark, and the part in the front door overhang won't contrast the way it did now. After you're done spreading some diamond gem spark walls, this is what it will look at night. Big difference, isn't it? You can use this concept for builds that you want to glow or stand out in dark areas or at nighttime. And now we've got ourselves a Wygol house exterior. Now for the last bit that I want to teach you guys is how to make it look as if you've entered the house through this exterior door. Since we've made the first version of the house already, we can use this as the interior. But in order for it to feel absolutely more convincing that you entered the door and not just teleported, we have to move the house far away from which the house cannot be seen on screen. Now, I've seen people do this by placing the interior and some other part of the map at the surface, but I prefer to place them underground. However, there's one big fault in this current setup. When you trigger the switch, it still feels as if you're just teleporting since the camera pans up or down the two teleporters you are using. In order to make it more seamless, we have to bring the house further down below. Now let us compare. Since the two teleporters are much farther away from each other, there's no camera panning. You just appear inside and outside with just a flick of the switch. Now that you know the basic mechanics of what we aim to do, I'll teach you guys how to set it up. For just this tutorial, I'm going to cheat a little bit and copy the whole house using the cheat sheet mod. Dig down below and place the house. Something you ought to know when copying something using the cheat sheet: the walls of your build that does not have anything attached to them, like a furniture or block, will not be copied over. I'm not sure if this is a bug that will be fixed in the future, but I'm just letting you guys know so you won't get surprised if you try the same. I just replaced the walls that couldn't be copied instead. I have to apologize as I was not able to record a certain part, but I will explain what I did in detail. Since this will now be the interior of the house, I removed the doors at the side, removed the windows, and replaced it with the same door that was created for the exterior and placed teleporters below them. I've also placed switches beside them and connected the switches and teleporters to their corresponding exterior doors. And I used two different colored wires to make it easier to track. To further improve the illusion that this is an interior and not just placed underground, I've painted the surrounding blocks and some walls with shadow paint. And there you have it! Our Wygol Village House is complete. Hey guys, I had so much fun creating this build and tutorial, and I really hope that this gave you some ideas for your next creations. I've still got a few more builds that I'm excited to show you, and I know I've said I was aiming for Thursday updates, but let's be real here for just a moment. I've got a full-time job from 8 AM to 6 PM and a parent who's playing online games till around 11 PM to 12 AM-ish, so yeah. I think the ideal time for me to upload would be on weekends, like perhaps around Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. I really wish I could give you guys a fixed schedule, I really do, but certain responsibilities are preventing me from doing so. So I hope you guys bear with me with my inconsistent uploads, as I am always pressed for time and I'm still learning a few things about editing, as I've not practiced it for so long. Also, if you guys have any requests for what I could build in the future, let me know in the comments down below, though I can't promise you when I'd be able to make them. Anyways, that's it for today. I'm just gonna go do my thing and you guys do your thing, and I'll see you guys later!